Hi, I'm Phil Spencer, and welcome to the Move IQ podcast home selling series, the only podcast series dedicated to help you sell your property. This season is sponsored by Go2 Group, who have a concierge service that can help you with all you need, from choosing the right agent, mortgage advisor, solicitor, surveyor, even removals. Plus, using Go2 online auctions or their committed buyer service to sell your home can give you certainty and peace of mind. We've added a link below so you can connect with them. Enjoy the podcast and hope you find it useful.
Hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in to episode 2, season 3. We've been talking about selling property and all the ins and outs and many variables that constitutes. This episode, we're going to talk a little bit about interviewing agents and how to choose the agent, because it is such a key thing to get right, is the right agent on your side at the right time.
We started diving into this quite heavily in our, should we say, feature length episode number 1. We usually go 10, 12 minutes on these, and that one was about 20 minutes or so. Yeah, we got a bit carried away, but I think there's a reason for that, and that is because this is probably, other than just the decision to sell, this is probably the second biggest decision, right? It's like, who's actually going to help me sell it?
I think it's probably even more important than the price.
So?
Because actually, if you've got the right price but the wrong agent, you're still not going to sell it. You've got to have the right agent on the right method of sale anyway.
So they come round, we're going to follow Phil's advice and ask to see 3. They come around, how do we interview? I mean, this is what it is. It's an interview process, right? What do we ask them?
Well, see what they think of your house, and do they have any advice, any thoughts on your presentation, and any suggestions on how you could present it any differently. I mean, they're in the market, use their expertise. And then you've got to interview them. Are you going to get on with them? Do you like them? Do you believe them? Are they knowledgeable? Do they have experience in your bracket, in your price bracket? I think it's interesting to understand their business model, and whether it's a small independent, whether it's owned by a bigger company, and the hierarchy of the office. Quite oftentimes I come across situations where the area manager or the branch manager will do all of the valuations, very impressive person, and he'll win the instructions, she'll win the instructions, but actually probably never pick up the phone and will never actually communicate with the owner of the house again. So you've given your piece of business to the person that you particularly liked, who handed it down the chain, and you never saw hide or tail of them again. I think that's something to be wary of. So it's important to understand who's in the office and how the hierarchy, who's going to be doing the viewings, who's going to handle the negotiation, who's going to handle the sales process, who's your point of contact.
Now, obviously, I mean, one of the big ways that people, when they start thinking about buying a property nowadays, they go online and they're looking at lots and lots of different websites. I mean, is it in our best interests to ask our potential agent what websites this property is going to be advertised on? Or do we just assume they're going to be on all the big major ones?
No, I think it's 100% part of your interview process, to understand their marketing approach. How do they think they're going to get you the best price, the best buyer? Yes, internet is a huge resource. It's not the only resource, but it is a huge resource. What portals will they be promoting it on? Will they use local trade press? Will they advertise it in the local high street? Where will they put it? How will they talk to people about it? Where will the photographs appear? Who will take the photographs? Will you pay for the photographs? Will you pay for the floor plan? There's lots of kind of ins and outs to there's no right or wrong, but there's lots of ins and outs to get your head around and understand.
I mean, experience is one thing, but like you say, sometimes it's a bit of a gut feel, more of a visceral sort of type of feel about whether we're going to end up working with somebody or not. Do we take a bit of a loaded question here, Phil? So watch yourself. Do we take things like memberships to associations in mind? Does that really mean anything anymore nowadays, and that sort of type of thing?
Anybody can set up as an estate agent, but yes, I think membership of a professional body is very relevant indeed. If for nothing else, actually, if something goes wrong, and there is a falling out or a disagreement over fees or services provided, then everybody needs to know whether they can go to somebody who can sort it out. So, professional bodies, ombudsmen, somewhere that will regulate their service adequately. You want to be protected.
Do we need to potentially ask them about things like similar properties that they are either attempting to sell currently or have sold in the last few months? And does that really come into play to a certain degree?
I think you can do an awful lot of your own research, and you should do your own research. You shouldn't just rely on what you're being told in what is effectively a pitch meeting. So do your research into who's selling what and for how much and how long it took. But yes, when you've got an agent in your house who's pitching for your business, what are they selling? What do they get for it? How long did it take? Who bought it? Was there any price adjustments and any advice and guidance that they may have on market dynamics at the moment? I think that's hugely relevant. You've got to pick an agent who's got a kind of track record for selling your type of property in your area, your price bracket. And if they do have that track record and that sort of history behind them, then the chances are they're going to have a buyer's list of people operating in your area who want to buy your type of property.
Now, I'm glad you bring up the buyer's list term there, because in our season 1, when we were talking about buying a property, we talked about how to get on our, an agent's hot buyers list. This now can very clearly, hopefully, be kind of spun around in the other direction and say, well, do you have a hot buyers list? How do we get our property in front of those people? Surely that's something we need to address when we meet up with these guys.
I think it's a very valid question to ask an estate agent who is pitching for your business. How many buyers would you get round in the first week?
Yeah.
Because, kid you not, the best buyers tend to be in the market at the moment. The agents know them, they're active, they've done their research, they've organised, they've got their mortgage together, they're ready to go. So once you sign on the instruction, you commit to selling with that particular agent, they really should have some people in their pocket ready to bring round in the first week. So yes, perfectly valid question. Who's on the hot buyers list? How many would you bring round?
This is all great stuff. I mean, as we wrap up this slightly shorter episode compared to number 1, are there any other sort of final thoughts here in terms of things that we should bring up at this particular type of meeting?
Well, of course, the other most important thing is establishing the right price to ask for your property and setting the right asking price.
Yep.
It's not a valuation. It's an asking price. And an estate agent can't give you a valuation, or most of them can't, because you need a surveyor to actually formally value the property.
Sure.
But an estate agent, general estate agent on the high street, will give you a marketing price. But it's worth a long discussion and a thought about that. What are they basing it on? How realistic is it? What percentage of marketing asking prices do they genuinely or generally achieve? And you've got to set, particularly in today's market, you've got to set an asking price that there's no point having a wildly ambitious asking price in today's market, and no one's even going to walk through the door.
Right.
Buyers are very price sensitive. So
yes.
That is a key number.
A certain level of realisticness.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. For you guys tuning in, actually, we have a ton of stuff over at the Move IQ podcast for this, or rather, Move IQ website for this. So if you go to moveiq.co.uk and then go ahead and sign up on our members area section, which is free to sign up. There's no fee or anything like that. There's an entire pack that anybody thinking about selling their property can download for free with a ton of stuff.
Yeah, there's lots of checklists and tools and all sorts of help for people considering selling and wondering how to do it, what to ask, and covers much of the stuff that Chris and I have been chatting about this afternoon.
Good stuff. We're going to be back at you again with episode number 3. And as we all know, we batch record and batch upload these. So you can binge Netflix style here at Move IQ. Episode number 3 is going to be all about whether or not we should spend money to sell our property.
That's it. It's about presentation, spend money to get money, and what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do.
It's going to be a good one. We will see you then.
Thanks for listening.